in terms of brain fitness and what their questions are. So, floor is open. Please raise your hand so I can reach out.
I actually have a quick question. What do you think about children on video games and how that affects them?
Okay, that's a great question. Yes. What else? Any other questions about brain? Yes?
There's the terminology that I hear a lot about right now is mindfulness. And there's been a lot of scientific study about meditation and how it can really tap into just, better ways of thinking and stuff like that.
So her question is about mindfulness and how mindfulness is effective in training the brain. Great question also. What else? All right, so a few hands here. Yes, ma'am?
When you have so many different things coming at you from various directions, people pulling at you, this, that, how do you focus
Information overload, getting pulled in many directions, and how do we get back to being more focused and more aligned? Yes, Anita?
So we've, science has really helped us extend our life. So we're all living at least 10 years, if not more. Has science helped us extend the life of our brain? Is it keeping up pace with the body?
Okay, that's a very good question also. So here we are with the medical advancements that are physically, there's a lot of progress in physical treatment of disease that has been made over the years, and we are at a prime time in the development or research in science that we are living longer, over let us say a decade ago, but has it really kept pace with the brain? And I will get to that. Your question.
Mine is from my own experience, multiple concussions, and my boys now, I have rugby boys and I have are there exercises to recuperate from that kind of injury, to regain that, it most often affects memory and order in the brain, I've been told. So is there a way to exercise what's left? Because supposedly we only use so much of our brain, whether we use like 10%, I know we quietly use the other 90, but can we more actively use the rest of it?
Yes, that's a great question, and actually that will facilitate me into, and your question, Reena, that is going to facilitate into structuring the day. Any other questions on this? Yes.
Maybe it's connected a little bit with the question, but I guess having just finished, you can still balance. I'm like living my life everywhere. Like every time I walk into a room and forget something, I mean, can you kind of maybe go through like memory, what sort of normal forgetfulness, and
what is normal and what is something to start getting worried about?
Yes, brain training, health, memory, and especially
Great question.
elderly with Alzheimer's.
Yes, what a great question. What a great question. So I think I will be able to cover quite a bit, and it's going to be an interesting discussion. Yes.
Can you cover how the food that you eat affects the brain and mental ability?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will.
I had the same question.
Same question. Okay. All right. So all very, very exciting questions. In the last 5 years or so, brain research has become the science for students to pursue. Brain has become the organ that everybody wants to tie in, even if it's an architect that says, I'm designing a brain-friendly house. Or let's do brain-friendly fashion. So it's becoming the decade or more of the brain. It's become very fashionable to be talking about brain. It was not like that before. And so as much research is coming out, there are the pros, there are the cons. There are people saying, yes, this works, yes, this doesn't work, so on and so forth. But right now, what I'm requesting everybody here to just stay with an open mind, and then you can go back and check back your research. But here is the circuit that we have created in our studio. With why we call it a comprehensive wellness circuit is we have the body training zone. So on the floor there are machines and equipment, just enough to get the body exercised, depending on ability. Then there is the brain training zone, where we do lots of different kinds of activities that help energize the brain. Now bear in mind that whatever we do for the body is good for the brain as well. And we will go into a little bit of the structure why physical activity is good for the brain. Then actually focused brain training. Then we do yoga and meditation as part of that circuit. And then we finish off by talking about nutrition, any questions participants may have, any concerns they may have. Many people don't even know their carbs from their proteins. So that, from the very fundamentals to a little bit more advanced, I have diabetes, and so on and so forth. So that's the circuit that we have designed, and it covers everything. The question about that Anita raised was, science has kept up with what's essential mechanisms or diseases to treat so that we can live a longer life. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said to be true for the brain. I have a DVD from Johns Hopkins University professors and department heads saying that they acknowledge that up until about 2003, 2004, the prime belief about the brain was you use it or you lose it. There is no regeneration. That's not true. We use it, we make more of it. We engage with people, we get more brain manufactured inside our brain factory. We have the factory, we have the brain garbage cleanup, everything here. So the brain research has not kept pace. That the scientists or the researchers or the students are looking under the microscope, to figure out, okay, what molecule, what atom, and so on and so forth, important work. But predominantly speaking, no, we do not lose our ability to regenerate our brain. The more we use it, the more we make. Right? How do we regenerate more brain? So brain training. There are many schools of thought out there. Some people judge, brain training is good, brain training is not good. It's the same way as saying wine is good, wine is not good. Chocolate is good, chocolate is not good. Grains are good, grains are not good. Meat is good, meat is not good. We do what we need to do. How can I claim that brain training is good? Or how can I claim that brain regenerates itself? Because I am living proof. And I know of many other people who went through traumatic brain injury incidents. It takes years, it's a journey, but then the brain regenerates itself and you feel whole. So I actually had, and I'm coming back to your question, which is about concussions. Any injury, and these are because of more NFL, unfortunate situations, NFL sports stars who are coming sort of out of the closet, talking about their injury, how their life is a mess, or committing suicide in the extreme case. So it has put the focus and spotlight on concussion. And on my Facebook page, we posted about the solution is not to take children away from playing sports. Injury can happen anytime, in any form or fashion. But the important thing is not if you can change certain rules, not having a header as one of the common practices in any of the contact sports, or making certain moves count towards a foul and decrease those, we can decrease those incidents. Can concussions be, depending on the concussion and the extent of injury, it can be severe, and it can be physically debilitating. Actually, I was at a Mensa picnic last year, so right mom, right dad, and right kid. And I found out I was talking to him, and he said he used to be a quarterback during high school years, and because of multiple concussions, he eventually, and not doing what needs to be done, the first aid, going back to the field really quickly without getting the therapy that was necessary or without the rehab that was necessary, because the coaches said, hey, be a man, show up. And kids are saying, I put in so many years into playing this sport, I don't want to lose that scholarship that's waiting for me at the end of the road. They force themselves and go back onto the playing field. Parents are thinking, oh my gosh, so they don't want to let the parents down either. parents are worried sick, but then they do what the kid is saying. And unfortunately, he had to drop out of the sport entirely during his 11th and 12th grade because of the severity of the injury, and he couldn't see straight, he couldn't remember things, so on and so forth. So extreme cases, town after town, league after league, all over the country, are taking place every day. So we've got to be careful and pause. Health is health over scholarship. I have to say that, health over scholarship. Yeah, because even otherwise in baseball, children just feel burnt out and it starts to matter more. They just can't pitch the right way. So again, it's health and recuperation in measured doses. It takes years. But patience, and it's nothing extraordinarily tough. But the best thing is, keeping your spirits high, providing the support that the child or the teenager needs, and just being around them. Just do what is the right thing. Abilities change, personality changes, the ability to remember changes, focus, clarity, attention may or may not change, and it's all part of the process. Think of it like a knitting. You drop a stitch, you have to come back and pick it up. So speaking of kids, question always, I am asked this question, video games are good or bad? Well, I'm going to use a rebel here and say video games are good. Video games, anything that's exciting is good. Anything that makes you think is good. Anything that makes you strategize is great. And think of a plan. What next? If you just sit down and do a maze, which we do in the at the studio, you do a maze, you think, okay, what next? Make a right turn, left turn, how much pressure and so on. So video games are good. As long as you or the player is in the driving seat. You become a passive consumer of technology, that's bad. Because then we lose attention, focus. If your child, or if you yourself, or your better half, everything is okay as long as you're watching television and glued to the screen. The moment TV is off, come do something, and there's an anxiety or there's anger, there is some sort of snapping at people around. That means that person is, a passive consumer of technology. So that has to be. Self-awareness is key. Just when you become aware, this is what is happening, just gently guiding, because you can't force, but you can guide children for better health habits. Make health an everyday part of your conversation. What's good, what's not good, let's try something different. Let's do it a certain way, why don't you use video games, let's say you're playing for a half an hour, go outside for a walk or a run for half an hour. Whatever time you're outside, that's how much you earn for your tech time. So we have tech time, TV time. Not always able to enforce it, I will admit, but we try. Yeah, but I try.
I've actually tried to, I've disallowed my son to play video games that are violent. So he's not allowed to play video games that have guns or blow people up or like any of the, I don't even know their names. I don't even know, I guess there's a few that are.
I do, my son is those.
But my question is, and because I didn't allow this simply because I've read the research about how it can affect some people's brains, not everybody's, but there is like a correlation. Have you found that in your studies?
Yes. Actually, that's a good point. That was what I was going to come to. Is there is so many different kinds of apps. Simple as find the difference between two screenshots versus kill people, strategize, what your move is going to be. You hide, you wear this coat and that. So here's the thing: our brain is film. Our mind, our brain is film. It records everything through our senses. The biggest sense that that we employ in creating memory is the sense of vision. What we see is going to leave an impression. So then, when children see blood and gore and killing, has an awful impression on the brain. That's the, see, our popular media would like to have us believe that this is in. Well, they make it in so that everybody wants it, and it proves, the prophecy that this is what is in. So no, we have definitely, as parents, we have to exercise, judicious thought into for how long, what it is, pair it up with something else, because there is a short-term memory and there is a long-term memory. When we sleep, our short-term impressions may or may not make it to the long-term memory and become part of our actual functioning brain. So if we find our children, using or working or playing on more common, and same is the thing about, the sex and the nudity and violence, guns, everything. So how we can discourage, we can be smart about mixing things up, so that there's not over repetition over a small period of time, because it is very hard to say I'm going to cut that off entirely. There's 100 different sources they can still get their information from, and it, from a psychological and behavioral perspective, what you forbid is going to be the desired application. So you have to employ that balance into how you sit, how you communicate, how much you want that temptation to build in proportion to your resistance. So, there are ways.
That's not having rules then. I agree. I wouldn't want my children to watch violent scenes.
Yeah, right.
But isn't that better for the child to have a rule that you don't watch?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have Netflix, so our children are not allowed. They may access it on the devices, but the devices are sitting in the kitchen.
Sure. When they're older, it's not making great, right? When they're older, I believe that maybe, and
There's a time for it.
they're physiologically, their brain is ready to process those images, whereas if they're 10, 11, 12, maybe they're not going to process violence the same way as if they process it when they're 17.
Absolutely. So we create, our children are the product of the environment that we create. So if they're in school, that's the cleanest part of their day, right? So there's no violence, there is no nudity, none of that. They come back home. And I'm talking about her kids, they are much younger. But the right back home is the time to influence their thought, to talk about. So we can, no matter what the environment is outside, and I'm sure many of you are moms who have grown-up kids who've been through all kind of stages of your children's lives, until they became adults. My children are still teenagers. And what I have seen and I have read about in research, or what I have experienced myself, is no matter what the external influence, years ago I read about this in a book that, and my son did come back home from kindergarten and he used the word SHIT. And I was like, what is that? And he said, I just heard it from some, because he was afraid, he didn't want me to get upset. I said, why are you using that word? And he was immediately afraid. He said, I heard it from somebody, Mom, and I didn't want to, kind of terrorize him. But then I said, you will hear a lot of different things outside. It's like when we go to the store and you try on pants. If they're really big, then you don't wear pants that are too big for you. You still go and try on the ones that fit you. So this is probably a big person word. Don't use it. And it's age appropriately. We're just guiding our children. And there will be influences. There are, absolutely. You look at this chandelier. There's an influence. Oh, this room looks nice. We don't consciously process it that way, but everything leaves an impression on the brain. It's the repetition that makes it from short term to an actual thing. And that's why, you know, we're very lucky to live in the kind of neighborhoods that we do, because everything is mostly family oriented, you know, big values and so on. So for the most part, we're doing good.
I mean, what I've read about video games is that when they're looking at the parts of your brains that are firing, that it's the addictive parts of the brain.
Yes.
And it is very addictive.
Yes.
And when you're talking to your children about that, to say, you know, this is like, you know, alcohol, coffee. I mean, I've talked to them about addiction and they're 7 and 8, you know. Can hopefully, when they have these choices, understand that, you know, you don't want to just be pulled into this for hours and this life go by.
That's a very good point. The unfortunate thing about research is that good sides of the business world try to use it for good. And those who are trying to leverage it to further their more money-oriented goals would, you know, try and use the bits that are geared towards that. So for example, there's a growing concept called neuromarketing. What are the things that, so when you go on Facebook or any data that is being captured to see what it is that promotes customer behavior towards buying. So not only just kids, we grown-up adults, you know, who are supposedly very informed and can make good choices, we're doing impulse shopping. You know, you go to the grocery checkout line, and there's a million different things that, you know, you think, oh, it's just $1, let me buy it. And, you know, $1.59, let me buy it. And then that $1.59, if they put a 10 in a box and then they give you 10, let us say a tic-tac-toe little small thing is $1.39. We pay no attention to $1.39. Okay, yeah, let's get $1.39. If they were to put 10 of those in a bag and say this is for $11, would you pay? No, you'll say it's very expensive. You know, so that's the neuromarketing piece of it. And that, yes, more and more companies are looking at, let us say you went to the website for doing your airline booking, and then the price was $700 something, and then you left it alone. But so for example, I was looking for Cancun, if you were going 2 weeks from now. So I let it go, but then probably everything on the computer knew that I was looking for Cancun, and started sending me messages about Cancun trips, or this is a cheap one, you know, come to our website. It's online hawking. If you went to a bazaar and you know, you go towards t-shirts, all the people who are selling t-shirts will say, come and buy my t-shirts, right? So it's the same thing. They're using, it's a catch-22. Yes, brain through repetition gets into addictive mode, but then they're forcing that repetition to promote the addiction.
Not only they try and make it stick, there is
Yeah.
a stickiness.
Yeah, so there definitely is this sticky gene, so to speak, that gets turned on. That's the brain's reward center. The brain's reward center is the one that, you know, you see if you have a sweet tooth and you see a muffin, you know, you want to go for it. A cheesecake? Sure, why not? But then that's the reward center. So that produces dopamine, for example. You know, somebody who's really addicted go for that because that impulse in their mind is saying, you know, I need that substance for quietening my mind. So yes, when you see a published paper focused on a certain item, and you know, if you can close your eyes and think of the brain and the neural connections as a star, as a light bulb, then every time you do something good, a light bulb goes on. Every time you do something bad, a light bulb goes off. So if you want our penthouse, I like to call the brain the penthouse suite. You know, so it has to be always well lit. You know, do something that's good. Exercise, go walk. You know, the clubs, and I belong to Ramsey Women's Club. These clubs, social engagement is huge. You know, there are now websites online that say, oh, come and play the game on the screen, and then they say, oh, this is a crossword puzzle, and then I find people, you know, working on crossword puzzle and then saying, I'm doing enough brain training. But guess what? You know, their crossword puzzle skill is becoming better, but not as a whole. You know, so that's the goal. So you become, experience a wide variety of different activities. If you can do it yourself, that's great. If if you need help putting together a plan, a 21-day kind of a thing, break into a new habit, release old ones that are not serving you good, then I'm there. I can be your brain coach.
Question. All you have to do is walk down the main street of town. They're all addicted to this, and they don't know cards, and it's such an addiction. What is happening to their brains? They're not in the real world.
No, they're not. And if you, and it is a shame. What's your name?
Jolene Murphy.
Jolene.
Yes.
Jolene Murphy asked a question about what we see every day. If you go in a school cafeteria, all you see is a I call it the black sea because it's just all heads. Maybe a little bit of blonde hair here and there, but you get the point. Everybody is bent down and sending messages just to a kid from across the room and not getting up. So right there and then they're not getting up. They're not making eye contact. They're not able to speak. Social graces are becoming fewer and fewer. Like the other day, my younger son, he texted me from his room upstairs. Guess what happened? Nothing. Actually, it comes down to the problem. But anyway, that's not always that right, Mom. So what is happening? So if each and every nerve ends in the brain, we all agree, right? Yeah. Each and every item that we do or we're not capable of doing connects with some part of the brain, right? So if we are not making eye contact over a period of time, then the ability to gauge body language, respond appropriately, communicate, goes down. If you're not, and these days they say, okay, all the books, and this is my biggest pet peeve in this day and age, is all these textbooks are online. So my children are not writing. I remember certain words, how they were spelled from second grade, the way I wrote them. And I still write cursive. So my memory of a word is not from a book where every word looks the same, but from the way I wrote it. So those are skills that are becoming extinct. And guess what's happening to the neural connections? Thank you. So our brains and evolution is happening right in front of our eyes. Our brains are becoming smaller and more atrophied, and so ours probably is the best generation. Coming back to your point, that we are experiencing the biggest benefits of this development in science, physically speaking, and in the coming generations. But our current generation of kids, unfortunately, are likely to live shorter lives than us.
Because this is the first time.
It's happened in the history of evolution.
But maybe aren't those people who are...
But then that's a whole different can of worms. But the thing is, that if you're not using, only because we're not, it's not the brain's inability to regenerate. It's that we are simply choosing not to use.
But aren't we stimulating, our children are stimulating other parts of their brain that we
Yes.
That's a lot more passive. Like this technology is very passive.
There is, if there was Play-Doh in my hand.
Well, like computer programming isn't passive. Like there's a lot of very positive technologies
Right.
that are, I
Right.
assume,
But a lot of people don't do the programming, they're just being the end user and don't understand how to use that. I mean, they said Apple, Steve Jobs, he did not let his kids use.
There's a whole movement in Silicon Valley, and I do not want to make technology this whole enemy of the modern generation. It's just that we have to be aware what's happening so that we can continue to, rebel. We can continue to say, okay, I'm not going to be completely led into just using my iPad. I will make it a point to go and speak with the person, who's just in the next cabin next to me. Or I'm going to read a book, not necessarily on my Kindle, but actually reading a book. Take some time to talk to them.
I have Kindle, I don't want to, I email people like, anybody have the book, so I don't have to get it on the Kindle. I would prefer the book.
Right. And organizations like the Women's Club, you all raise funds to support the local libraries. That's awesome. You support raise funds to support small businesses like mine, that would be awesome. And people who really,
That's a great support.
really, and then I would like to come back to the, so if I had a Play-Doh, I'll just finish my thought there, then if the currently known human brain, is like, everybody's seen the red kidney bean. But what's happening is there are portions of the brain that we are, not by choice, but because of availability of resources, we're bombarded by Kindle, so certain things are going away. The buying experience of shopping is going away unless Amazon decides to now come back in and open a bookstore, So those things are going away, and I'm sure, there will be a turnaround that will happen over the next 20 years or so. But then predominantly there are excessive development in certain visual-oriented portions of the brain versus other sensorial portions of the brain. The thinking patterns are changing. If you're not writing, we're not using the fingers in a certain way. We're essentially not using hammers. We're not using axes. We're not using, saws the way we used to do in the primitive times. So the brain has evolved anyhow. So it's evolving, and there's I read a very interesting paper about 5 years back that there's a distinct demarcation that is happening in the evolution of the human race, two different kinds, one that are superior thinking ability and structure and so on, and cognition, and then there's the other that is distinctly different physiologically and anatomically, but that's a long time, 70, 80 years time frame. But if we choose to, be mindful of that, and I will come back to mindfulness.
Well, yeah, that's what, I once read a book many, many years ago. Alan Watts wrote it. It's called The Way of Zen. And the idea is that every religion, and even if you're not a religious or atheist and choose meditation, brings you into mindfulness, makes you a bigger person, a whole person. Have you seen in your research of the brain, has prayer or meditation, have they done studies? How does that correlate to brain development, and have you seen anything?
Sure. And that's a big zone in our wellness circuit, meditation, yoga and meditation. And great point, but I just want to finish my thought about choosing to rebel and becoming more aware of what we are doing. You're doing a great job being social, you're doing a great job having causes to support, you're doing a great job, choosing to invite interesting speaker. I think I'm It's all great things, nothing to worry about, but then as you see the younger generation, whether it's your own child, grandchild, or neighbor's child, take an interest in people outside of your immediate sphere of concern. Because when we choose to take responsibility, we're just stepping outside of one bubble, and that expansion is really good for the brain. So if you see
Balance.
right.
Mary Alice and I have been reading all the old records of meetings at the Women's Club from 1909 on, and been very impressed that every single minute of every single thing that went on was written in cursive in large ledgers. And every program, every song title is written, everybody who performed. And it's really quite magnificent. And when they describe I was just reading this today, remember the milk program during the war, the bottles of milk and everything? I was really interested in that. And they had little vignettes of each, about 6 families that they were serving. And the descriptions were mind-boggling, because it was like, this family has 4 little girls, there was no furniture in the house, everyone was sleeping on blankets on the floor. And the father, yes, very human. The father in this house was a rum runner, and he left the family and the wife has no way to support them at all, and there are 6 children. The numbers of children were astounding too, 6, 8, 9.
Big families.
Big families, yeah. And of course, this was 1930, it was the Depression. And they told how many bottles of milk they gave them each day, and for how long they gave them, and how the mother said they wouldn't have lived without this, you know. And all through our records, these records are wonderful. All through the records, there's this theme of the humanness of the work that they were doing. And it's to a great extent because the women who wrote it out, it took them hours, I'm sure. But everybody was really trained in cursive writing then. You know, my grammar school, it was all in class. And mentorship you really had to do.
So that's a great point that she's bringing in, and it's also a big testament to the fact that society has evolved too. You know, doing good I remember my family used to, my mom and dad would cook meals, entire boxes of food, 5 items, from 4 courses or so, and bring it to a school for the blind every year. So the extent of detail was that then we would serve, and I remember my father, the emotion was that they are giving us the opportunity to be good, rather than, I'm doing something good for them. Versus, so now our children still continue to do good. We teach them those good things, but we say, it's a food drive, let's buy cans of food, and some children do go to soup kitchens. So I don't want to belittle the effort, but I'm saying it's an evolution of society. And then I'm sure the organizations are maintaining minutes, it's just that they're a little different. There's no personal connection.
Everybody's too busy.
Right. Technology was supposed to give us time, it hasn't, but that's the nature of society. And I want to come back to meditation because it's a really critical piece of the puzzle. Is meditation. It's non-religious. I actually have read books by Aldous Huxley, and he transcends Eastern and Western philosophies, and he talks about, meditation is religion independent. It's all about quietening the mind. All of our saints and masters and enlightened beings have actually learned the technique of quietening the mind. Coming back to neuroscience, yes, there are important studies. For everything you don't need a study. Observation is great but when people demand, then studies are done, with grants and all that. And important studies have been done and published by no less than researchers at Harvard University. They're posted on my Facebook page. I keep Facebook page updated. You can always go there for information. That the meditation has not only the quietening abilities, it offers brain regenerative abilities. So we can form newer, richer neural connections inside our brain if we choose to meditate. What is the outward expression of benefits? Is better focus, clarity, ability to hold on to thought, improved memory, the good things that we really want to have. So the more time we can take today to be well. And my philosophy in my studio is we're non-judgmental. We don't want to create fear, but we want to empower. Saying that there are things that you can do. Come, let us show you how, and then you're independent. So we do the meditation programs. We do yoga. And then you learn the techniques. You go back home, practice. We've just concluded a wellness camp that was our second ever, and participants ranged from somebody who had severe depression and was getting electrical shocks to somebody who had MS, and she's walking straighter. Her daughter came and we did a little reverse parent-teacher conference. So she said, my mom feels great. She's drinking water regularly that used to be for years used to be a challenge, and the mom said, oh, forgive me, but I have to say, she said, since I'm drinking water regularly, I'm having better morning time. So those are the wellness benefits. You just have to take the step outside. People join the gym, and then there are annual memberships. We don't believe in annual memberships, so I'm just transferring back to what we can do. So I think I'll just take some time. Somebody raised their hand. Oh,
If you had to give us a few minutes to talk about what is it that we can actually do to exercise the brain, what is the actual process of what we can do to keep the brain active in exercise?
Okay, that's an important question. Yeah, because that is a lot that can be done. And I will still take a couple more questions and then I'll stop.
How much?
How much for the program? For the program? Okay, if I'm allowed to, many people don't allow that.
And then I want you to come to the seniors and tell us how we can remember things a little bit better. All right? We've heard about the children. We've heard about meditation. Let's go to us.
Last, yeah.
Kids seem to be getting less and less sleep these days. I mean, I hear of students that stay up till 1 a.m. studying because it's so important to do the APs. And, what is that doing as a long-term effect to their brain? I mean, obviously that can lead to anxiety, depression, and, weight problem, everything. So.
Absolutely. And I actually belong to, and I will finish with the kids and then because it's relevant for everybody's sleep. I actually belong to a Facebook group that talks about people with mental illness. So it runs the gamut from different ages to different mental illness challenges. So we raised the question, what is it that they would do differently if they were to go back in time when they first found out about their condition? And I've read and heard of some heartbreaking stories over there. So one of those things is, so from what I gather, and I'm giving you, hours worth of research results right here, is typically it starts mostly with boys during teenage years. 15, 16 is typical. Not having the right access to right doctor, or parents not having the awareness that there's something shifted in my child, so we should see a doctor. Having the wrong doctor, so they wish to get consulted with the right doctor. And the last but not the least is sleep. Sleep. So important and so difficult. It's like water in your hands. No time. Go back to bed. I still have work to do. My son tells me that, and the other day I just forced him to sleep at 11:30. I said, you will be able to do more on the bus ride to school than you are able to do between 11:30 and 1 a.m. But then he did not do too well. What did I hear? You made me go to sleep. I said, that's fine. We will live with the beat. Don't worry. But the bottom line is, sleep is so essential. As we age, and we're all women here, so I can talk about this without, offending anybody. As we age, our hormones change, and our sleep patterns change. We think, okay, I remember my mom being like that she would say, I'm surviving on 2 hours of sleep, or 3 hours. I couldn't sleep all night. We think back and we think, okay, probably it's normal. It is not normal. You got to do something about it. Doesn't mean we should start worrying about it. There are many people I know, and the concept of too much sleeping pills, I have to admit, I became exposed to that trend when I first came to the U.S. That there's, left, right, and center doctors are prescribing sleeping pills, and those are habit forming. When you get off of that, then there are other issues because there's a certain degree of addiction with those. So sleep is essential. Sleep is the time when our short-term memories get moved, so the purge happens. Whatever is essential goes into the brain as a long-term memory. Whatever is inessential is purged out. That's the time, just like we have anti-aging nighttime cream for replenishing our skin. The replenishment in the brain happens during sleep time. So if you're not able to sleep at night, see if you can take a nap during the daytime. It's equally beneficial, equally therapeutic, and essential. How many hours of sleep? The jury is still out there. Everybody. So Einstein survived on 4 hours of sleep apparently, and I want 6. I can't do 8. If I do 8 and I think, oh, I did not get my 8 hours of sleep, something must be wrong, then that's fear. Fear is worse for the brain health than just taking it out. The same goes for water too. How much water to take? So I was just going to highlight. There's a big poster in my studio that says the actual 5 pillars of brain health are being socially engaged. As you can see, I'm very big about that. Don't be sitting in a corner and working on a brain game on your cell phone. Well, some of it is okay, but then try and get out of the house as well. Keep your body active, keep your brain sharp, eat well, and sleep well. And at the intersection of all of these bubbles is, where we created a program that we can actually do something about. So meditation, 20 minutes of meditation, 2 hours of sleep. That's how beneficial it is. So we do meditation programs. Something to drink. So most of the programs, and about 3,000 people over the last 9-10 years have participated or sat through programs like this and asked questions, and that's my first-hand research into changing habits, changing buying patterns, people's information level, and so on. And predominantly, seniors have, and that's what they hired us for, is the short-term memory. I go to a room, I forget what it was about. I go to the grocery store, and if I don't remember to bring my list, I don't know what I'm buying, and I just buy stuff and buy the trivial and forget the important ones or disappointments, can't remember people's names. So I've heard them all, and I've heard them multiple times in the last 10 years or so. The important thing again is being active, engaging, making an effort to try and remember. So small things really are that you can do that would help improve the memory is paying attention, being mindful and paying attention. So if I park my car at IKEA, I look up, and they're very smart. They know people forget about where they park their car all the time. There's the red level parking, there's the green level parking, there's the blue parking. But then, okay, I'm in the red level parking, and I'm far on the other side, and I'm standing in L, so you don't remember you're in the L zone. So just where you parked, look around. Where you park, if you're in a mall, let us say Garden State Plaza. I know many people who don't go to GSP because it's confusing. So if I go to Garden State Plaza and I say, okay, I'm stepping right, if I was facing the mall, I'm standing right in front of Nordstrom. So that's a good thing. You come back out, Nordstrom, and so that's mindfulness in practice.
So how do you know something's wrong? At what point do you say this isn't normal?
If you go to your doctor, and over a period of time, your internal medicine doctor is your first person who will say that I think you should see a more specialized service for the memory problem. Because trust me, everybody's in denial. They see it when people are fearful about their ability to remember or recall. That's the highest, that's the worst time for them to admit that there is a problem. Fear and denial go hand in hand. So when is it ability to remember is not debilitating. It's not preventing you from functioning normally otherwise. If I put my bottle here and I forget, and then sometimes I find my cup of tea inside my closet. Should I be worried? No, I remember having found my cup of tea in my closet, I don't think I finished my cup of tea. Where did I put it? So then you retrace. See, the beauty of our brain being a film is we can rewind and play the movie. If you retrace, you say, okay, let me just pause and then say, I was in the kitchen, and then I went upstairs, the phone rang, my phone was upstairs, and you go upstairs, and then you retrace that, chances are that 8 out of 10 times, if not 9, you will be led to that same, you have to retrace yourself. So I'm not worried, I'm not worried. But then if I forgot about my, if I can't recognize my husband, he will be worried. So you wanted to ask for, I have a brochure. See, my company used to be called the Brain Studio. So at that time I had created a trifold, and it said, give your brain the cerebrity treatment, like the cerebral treatment. So I'll read things out for you and see, because when somebody walks in to do a brain training program with us, everybody is different. Everybody's goals are different. Their learning style is different. Somebody may memorize numbers faster than words. Somebody has memorized entire Shakespeare. So what is your learning style? Your visual, your auditory, your sensorial, and so on. So based on that, and interests and your description of yourself, self-reported analysis. So lots of behind the scenes in a simple questionnaire. Then we determine, okay, what's the best way to go forward in terms of the memory training. But simple things you can do on your own at home that would consciously help create new neural pathways and improve the brain function, regenerate everything, is first of all is focus and pay attention. That means minimize multitasking. We are very good at that. I know I am really good at that. I could hold things with my foot. But then I don't. I'm a little out of practice. Get enough sleep, although it varies from person to person. Be physically active. Be socially active. Now this brochure comes with a warning about being socially active. Don't become like a social butterfly, because then I go to this class and I go to this class and there's 15 people here and 10 people here. I can't remember anyone's name, something is wrong with me. No! Go to fewer places, go frequently, and remember everybody's name. Right? So that's good. Nurture a new area of interest. That's huge. Some people take to gardening. I know of somebody who takes violin lessons, and she's doing awesome because it forces you to memorize. Why are these things important? Because you are required, you're answerable to somebody to have memorized something. So it forces you to remember. If you just read a book, okay, lots of articles these days, purportedly experting, read, follow routines. I say don't follow routines. Because when you follow routines, then you absent-mindedly. Have you ever driven from here to home and then realized, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I have no idea. Right? So that's what routines do. Change routines frequently. Don't just read. If you have a book club, join it. If you don't have a book club, women's club, please run it. We have one. Become a part of it. Because see, having answerability and accountability to somebody else will force you to remember. And that's the thing. Why is a coach important? Because he or she is going to say, all right, these are the 10 things, let's see how many can you remember, and you're put on the spot. Right? You've done being mom and grandma long enough. Now you need somebody else to do that job for you. All right, so listen to music, bring variety to routines, challenge yourself, and pray or meditate. So these are things. And my information is here. If you have any further questions, you can see me after this. And I enjoyed very much. I hope you will take some good things away from this lecture. And thank you for the opportunity.